Karate at the Olympics, yeah.
It's a dream come true for karateka around the world as the sport is finally recognized as an Olympic discipline.
残念な気持ちはあるんですけれども、いつかまた
It gives me all the more motivation to do everything I can to ensure the sport gets the attention it needs.
もう世界中にアピールできたらいいなというふうには思っています。
Karate is already a global sport. The World Karate Federation alone has over 10 million members in 192 countries. Interestingly, most have remained true to traditional karate. Only a small fraction follow the strictly regulated competitive variety.
Karate was used to defend yourself, but not so much anymore. Now we train to defend ourselves, and through that training we become better people.
It's crunch time in Gunma, near Tokyo. Among the contenders, Kyu Shimizu, Japan's reigning Queen of Kata. She became interested in karate at the age of 9 and just 3 years later had already earned a black belt. Now 26, she's a 3-time world champion and has topped the Japanese league in 7 successive years.
In competitive karate, there are 2 categories, kata and kumite. Both have their own appeal, and I'd love to see more people getting the chance to experience the 2 disciplines live.
Kata is the karate equivalent of shadow boxing against an imaginary opponent. The objective is to follow a pre-arranged choreography as perfectly as possible. At competitive events, karateka can choose which of the 102 permitted katas they want to perform.
The fascinating thing about kata is that despite the fixed form, I still have a huge amount of room for personal expression. Unlike most other sports, a kata comes with a heritage that has been passed on over generations, from master to master. But as everyone is different, even though a kata has fixed routines, it can always be interpreted individually, making its performance unique. Then there's the evolution of a kata over time. The longer you practice a kata, the greater the depth and meaning you give it. The point is not to check a list of points. Kata accompanies you for your entire life, and that's great.
The second category is called Kumite and involves sparring against an adversary. At the Olympics, it will be contested in 3 instead of the usual 5 weight divisions. Safety is paramount in karate. A controlled impact on the torso is permitted, but contact with the opponent's head must be limited to at most a light or skin touch. The challenge involves keeping your own movement under complete control while reacting with maximum technical prowess and commitment. Video replays for judges were introduced 5 years ago for positive evaluations. The innovation was widely welcomed. At first sight, karate might seem similar to taekwondo, a now established Olympic discipline, but there is one crucial difference.
With competitive taekwondo, you only use your legs. With karate, you employ your hands too. A kick or punch to the head earns 3 points, and the torso 2, with 1 point for a push. Kumite is far livelier than kata and has a far wider range of technique. What makes it particularly exciting is the unpredictability of the sequence of strikes and the techniques of each individual fighter. The most important element is using each technique with maximum control to ensure that the attack is pulled back at the shortest possible distance from the opponent, so without actually touching them.
Kyoto, in the heart of Japan's main island, Honshu. Here in the tranquil surroundings of bamboo forests and rice fields is the karate school, or dojo, of Sungyu University. Here we meet a man who's been instrumental in the development of competitive karate for decades. Katsuhiro Tsuyama sensei is 80 years young and the vice president of his country's karate association. 54 years ago he founded the local dojo, which has since produced a series of world-class karateka.
Unfortunately, we have a major problem with the rules for competitive karate. From one era to the next, there are repeatedly non-uniform changes in the Japanese Federation, as well as in the World Karate Federation. It's very confusing for athletes taking part in a variety of competitions. Spectators who are not experts in the sport are often unable to understand the new rules. Karate is still a traditional Japanese martial art in my eyes, but the new generation tends to see it in sporting terms. There are plenty of contests and awards to be won. I try to unite the traditional art with the spirit of competition, and that includes the greeting. Everything in karate, every training session, every fight, begins and ends with respect and civility.
The history of karate is one of migration. A range of cultural influences from Persia, the Indian subcontinent and China came together centuries ago on the island of Okinawa. Under the rule of the Ryukyu people, everything was connected with the culture and the local martial art, known as the te, laying deep roots with a lasting legacy. Okinawa Island alone is home to over 400 dojos, bringing together the modern world with traditional teaching and its venerable old masters. This is Dr. Tetsuhiro Hokama Hanshi. He's written a number of books on traditional karate and also opened the world's first karate museum at his home, based on his grandfather's collection of memorabilia.
This is the nunchaku. I teach the old martial arts with weapons like the bo, sai, nunchaku, to unfa, and suruchin. But karate actually means empty hand. That means no weapons. Everyone talks about karate this and that, but I doubt most people even know what it means. Of course, it's a martial art for self-defense, but when we look at the first character, we see the symbol for language. Conflict should as such be resolved by an eye-to-eye conversation with your opposite. Karate involves so much. It trains the skeleton, the muscles, and via breathing, ultimately the circulation too. Meditation is also a factor. Knowledge of natural healing. All of that belongs to karate.
My life is karate. I'm very happy.
Takahiro Shinjo Sensei's students practice late into the evening.
Even if you are competing in a tournament with real opponents, ultimately, karate is above all a confrontation with yourself. Without fundamental faith in your own abilities, any fight will be over all too quickly. You need a strong imagination. Where do you want to go? What do you want to achieve? This confrontation with your own self is the first, toughest, and most important fight of all.
I hope things won't develop like they did with judo at the Olympics. There are no more Japanese referees at the moment. And most of the best fighters in sumo, the yokozunas, are from Mongolia. I pray karate will not meet the same fate. But that's what happens when everyone's only focused on winning. If Okinawa's karateka do not prevail at the Olympics, it certainly doesn't mean that traditional karate is redundant. This must be clear to everyone, otherwise our roots may be permanently damaged.
There is always some risk. So when you get bigger, but it's okay, it's a part of it. The point is to to make your roots deeper and deeper. More the tree grows, more you have flowers, more it becomes heavy and large, more the tree needs larger roots. So we'll be here to protect it.
October 25th is Karate Day in Japan and a big event on Okinawa. It commemorates the meeting of the great masters in 1936, when the martial art was officially named karate and its future as a competitive sport was decided.
The Japanese are simply unbeatable.
The Japanese will also be favourites at the Olympics. A centuries-old heritage is difficult for other nations to catch up on.
The secret behind the strength of the Japanese is that they pay close attention to every detail during training and always give 100%.
In order to qualify for the Olympics, you have to compete in the Premier League every month. Although the total number of participants in the Premier League is limited, there's no limit on the number of karateka from one country, depending on their score. In the case of the Olympic Games, it was decided from the outset that only 10 people per nation would be allowed. So just getting there is already a challenge. The competition level will be very high and not comparable to the Premier League. Of course, there's huge pressure from the high expectations. I think I'll do the best I can, step by step.
Beautiful.